The Denver Broncos just turned into the team nobody thought they would see again, and the timing could not be more unsettling for the rest of the league. One moment, the conversation was all about the Kansas City Chiefs. The next moment, Denver walked into the spotlight with a run that feels bigger than any headline they have received. They sit at 9 wins and 2 losses, holding 8 straight victories and owning every home game they have played. Yet people still act like this is some quiet side story. The shocking part is how fast everything flipped, because Denver did not creep into this position. They jumped into it and forced every contender to look over their shoulder. What nobody is talking about is the way the Broncos have changed the entire energy around their franchise. Not long ago, fans were wondering how long the setback from the Russell Wilson chapter would last, and whether the locker room could ever feel stable again. Now the atmosphere is calm, confident, and focused, and the team plays like a group that already knows how to survive tense moments. When they beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, it felt less like a miracle win and more like a warning sign that Denver is building something strong enough to shake the AFC picture. The twist is that this new version of the Broncos does not feel like a hot streak. It feels like a shift that has been coming for a while, and the rest of the league is only now starting to see it. They are not winning by luck, and they are not surviving because other teams slip. They are taking control one week at a time and proving it in the toughest spots. And if you really want to understand what changed inside this team, you have to look back at how far they came from the chaos of their recent years, which is exactly where the next part of this story begins. But before we jump into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Broncos and all the NFL content. Can we get 200 likes on this video? The Denver Broncos were supposed to spend years digging out from the shadow of the Russell Wilson era, yet that idea has quietly died inside their own building. For a long stretch, it felt like every primetime game turned into a punchline. Every loss brought new jokes, and every national segment used Denver as a warning story. Fans heard talk about contracts, missed chances, and confusion at quarterback, and it sounded like the kind of mess that usually takes a decade to fix. The team looked stuck in the middle, not bad enough to reset everything, yet not strong enough to scare anyone who mattered in January. Inside the locker room, that reality started to shift the moment Sean Payton walked in and pushed everything back to basics. Meetings got sharper, mistakes stopped being brushed aside, and players started talking less about noise and more about details. Veterans who had lived through the rough seasons set a new tone, while younger pieces on both sides of the ball brought fresh energy without caring about old storylines. The sideline looks controlled now, with coaches and players locked into the same plan instead of looking like they are searching for answers in the middle of a drive. You can feel a clear standard in place, and everyone in that room knows exactly what it takes to stay on the field. That change in leadership is the reason Denver feels so different when the game turns tight. There is no sense of waiting for something bad to happen anymore, only a belief that they can handle whatever the next series brings. Every week becomes another test of that mindset, and the way they respond says more than any press conference ever could. To really see how strong this new foundation is, you have to walk through the stretch of games that built this season, because the truth about this team lives inside the way they survived each step of that climb. The funny thing about a hot team is how easy it is for people to shrug and say the schedule helped them. That lazy take falls apart the second you walk through what the Denver Broncos have actually gone through week after week. There have been cold road games, tight starts, long stretches where the offense had to grind for every yard, and nights where the defense was asked to survive drive after drive without help. Some wins were ugly, some were wild, and some needed one more stop at the very end. But the pattern is always the same. Denver keeps landing in the type of moments that usually flip a season, and instead of cracking, they keep finding a way to leave with another win. To really feel how different this year is, you have to remember the scars that came before it. There were home games that slipped away in the final minutes, losses to teams like the Bengals or Patriots that wrecked the playoff math, and division battles with the Chargers or Chiefs where one mistake in the fourth quarter erased 3 quarters of hard work. Fans knew that sick feeling of watching a lead fade or a game-tying drive stall at midfield, then spending the whole week wondering how it went wrong again. Those memories did not vanish. They sit in the background as a reminder of how fragile a season can be when a team does not know how to finish. Now, those same types of games are turning into proof that this version of Denver is built on something stronger. Long fields late in the fourth quarter no longer feel like a death sentence, and defensive stands in the final minutes feel normal instead of surprising. Every time the clock starts to wind down in a one-score game, the ball keeps finding the same person, and the huddle keeps looking at the same calm face behind center. That shift is not an accident. And it is the reason the next part of this story has to focus straight on Bo Nix and what he has already become in these pressure moments. The rise of Bo Nix has turned into one of the strangest storylines in the league, mostly because the loudest voices keep missing what is right in front of them. People say he is carried by his defense, or that he is just a safe passer benefiting from a strong system, but none of that matches what actually happens when the game hits its breaking point. Every time the pressure spikes, he is the one holding the moment steady. He is not playing like someone who is just trying to survive his early years. He is playing like a quarterback who expects to take control when everything around him feels tight. In his first 2 seasons, he has stacked the kind of resume that does not belong to a young passer still figuring out the league. He already has around 8 fourth-quarter comebacks, he has won a large share of his first 28 starts, and he is leading one of the heaviest passing workloads in football while keeping Denver on top of the AFC race. Those are not empty numbers. They are proof of how he handles chaos and how often he delivers the throw that keeps a season moving in the right direction. When you carry that much responsibility this early and still produce wins, the label of rookie or system guy stops making sense. The twist is that his biggest answers do not always come from touchdowns or highlight shots. Sometimes it is the calm throw on third down, the tight window pass with a rusher in his face, or the perfect read when the whole stadium expects a mistake. That steady control is what separates him from the noise, and it is why Denver trusts him in every critical spot. And if you want the clearest picture of who he really is right now, you have to look at the night he stood across from Patrick Mahomes and matched every moment without needing a single scoring throw, which is exactly where the story goes next. The Denver Broncos just watched Bo Nix walk into a game against Patrick Mahomes that looked like it should tilt toward Kansas City, and instead, he turned it into a showcase of control. On the surface, his night looked simple. The kind of box score that casual fans scroll past without thinking twice. No touchdown passes, no wild shootout, just steady football from start to finish. But that is exactly what makes it so scary for the rest of the league. Denver did not need fireworks to beat the team that has ruled the conference for years. They needed a quarterback who could stay calm while everyone else felt the tension, and that is exactly who Bo Nix was. When you dig into the details, the picture changes fast. Bo Nix completed 24 of 37 for 295 yards, never turned the ball over, and saved his sharpest throws for the moments when a mistake would have flipped the entire night. The Chiefs brought heat over and over, sending extra rushers on a large chunk of his dropbacks. Yet he punished those looks by going 6 of 8 for 113 yards against the blitz and refusing to panic. The defining sequence came late in the game with the score tight and the ball deep in Broncos territory. A 3rd and long that should have handed Patrick Mahomes a short field turned into a laser to Courtland Sutton, another clutch grab to move the chains again, and then a perfect shot to Troy Franklin down the sideline that set up Will Lutz for the kick that put Denver in front for good. What really matters is what this kind of game says about who Bo Nix is and what this version of the Broncos can be. He proved he can stand across from Patrick Mahomes, ignore the urge to force big plays, and still be the one who closes the door when the game hangs in the balance. But as strong as his night was, he never carries that stage alone. The only reason Denver could play this measured style was because their defense kept squeezing the Chiefs' attack again and again, turning a usually explosive unit into a frustrated offense fighting for every yard. And that transformation on the other side of the ball is where the story gets even more shocking. The Denver Broncos defense has turned into the part of this team that keeps offensive coordinators awake all week, and Vance Joseph is the mind behind that shift. This group plays with a sharp edge on every snap, flying to the ball and treating every drop back like a chance to flip the game on its head. They already sit near 49 sacks through 11 games, a number that puts them in range of historic seasons like the 1984 Chicago Bears that people once said could never be touched in modern football. This is not a passive unit that bends and hopes. It is a defense that attacks first, squeezes space, and forces quarterbacks to speed up every decision until the pressure finally breaks something. You saw the full version of that identity against Patrick Mahomes, where Jaquan McMillan played like the field belonged to him. He jumped routes with perfect timing, crashed off the edge on carefully timed blitz calls, and turned a regular season matchup into a defining night for his name. One interception, multiple pressures, and timely sacks came at the exact moments when Kansas City was trying to grab back control. What makes it even more impressive is who was missing. Denver walked into that game without Pat Surtain too, yet the secondary still held firm with players like Chris Abrams-Draine, Riley Moss, and Talanoa Hufanga matching routes, tackling in space and backing up an angry front that never slowed down. Up front, the depth looks real, not like a thin line that fades after the starters sit. Rushers such as Jonah Ellis keep bringing fresh heat off the edge, while steady anchors and linebackers like Alex Singleton help close running lanes and finish tackles that used to leak into big gains. Vance Joseph has built a structure where pressure can come from any level. Corners can be trusted to battle on an island, and the pass rush is free to close drives instead of just surviving them. When a defense tilts the field that often, the game rarely stays in a simple offense versus defense story. It opens the door for a third phase to tilt everything even more, and that hidden edge is where the Broncos are quietly separating from other contenders. The quiet strength of this Denver run lives in the plays most fans barely notice. Every time Marvin Mims Jr. lines up deep, you can feel tension on the other sideline. Because one clean crease can flip the whole field. That burst showed up on his 70-yard return that turned a normal drive into instant scoring range and sucked the life out of a tired defense. On coverage units, guys like Devin Key, Dondrea Tillman, and Q Robinson sprint down the field like the ball is running from them, pinning offenses inside their own 20 and forcing star quarterbacks to work through long fields over and over. Then you have Will Lutz, walking onto the turf like nothing around him exists, drilling pressure kicks that turn thin margins into wins and make every small special teams victory feel like a body shot the opponent cannot shake. The twist is that even with those hidden advantages, the Broncos know there is a part of the offense that cannot stay this choppy if they want to control the postseason. Losing J.K. Dobbins took away the back who could live in tight spaces and turn dirty runs into steady gains. And the ground game has been searching for a new personality ever since. R.J. Harvey flashes quick feet and bounce outside. Jaleel McLaughlin hits lanes with burst and falls forward. But the run plan still feels like it changes week to week. Sometimes it is stretch looks, sometimes it is quick tosses, sometimes it is pounding inside, and you can tell Sean Payton is still hunting for the mix that makes defenses truly respect the run on every snap instead of treating it like a change-up. Nowhere is that more glaring than inside the last 20 yards. Over the recent stretch, Denver has converted only 2 of 9 trips in the red zone into touchdowns. And that number hangs over every meeting during the bye. Short fields created by Marvin Mims Jr. returns should end with the offense celebrating in the end zone, not settling for 3 points and relief. The good news is that this feels like a fixable problem, not a missing talent issue. A clearer identity for R.J. Harvey and Jaleel McLaughlin, sharper calls near the goal line, and smarter ways to use Bo Nix in tight space could flip those field goals into 7s very fast. If that happens while the defense and special teams keep playing at this level, the conversation stops being about a fun surge in November and shifts to where this team will sit in the AFC race when the most important games of the year arrive. The Denver Broncos now stand in a position that felt impossible not long ago. They are holding the top spot in the AFC race, sitting ahead of rivals who were expected to control the conference without much trouble. The Chiefs are chasing, the Chargers are slipping, the Raiders are fighting to stay in it, and teams like the Ravens and Texans are lurking with real strength. Yet Denver is the team steering the entire playoff picture right now. This is the stage of the season where wins stop feeling like surprises and start shaping who gets to stay home in January And who has to hit the road when everything matters most? Every snap now carries the weight of seeding, tiebreakers, and home field dreams that can change a franchise for years. The stretch after the bye will test how strong this rise really is. A primetime game against the Washington Commanders, a rivalry battle with the Raiders, and matchups with the Jaguars and Packers will show how the Broncos handle life as the measuring stick instead of the hunter. None of those tests will be easy, and every team on that list will treat Denver like a chance to prove something. Win the next few, and they can tighten their grip on the AFC West and push closer to the 1 seed. Slip even once, and the door cracks for Patrick Mahomes or any contender behind them to close the gap. That pressure is what makes this part of the season feel heavier, because each drive now carries playoff weight long before the bracket arrives. The wild part is that Denver is not even at full strength yet. Players like Pat Surtain II, Alex Singleton, Jonah Ellis, and Nate Adkins are working their way back into the mix. And younger pieces such as Drew Sanders wait for bigger roles once the staff finishes tightening the run game and red zone plan. At the center of all of it is Bo Nix, not as a temporary answer, but as the quarterback this roster is being shaped around for the long future. If the defense keeps hunting, the special teams keeps flipping fields, and Bo Nix continues to guide these pressure games with calm, the question is no longer if the Broncos are real. The real question is how far this version of Denver can push when January arrives and whether that journey might carry them all the way to Santa Clara for Super Bowl 60.